Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going over my top recommendations for the Sephora VIB sale that is coming up. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and let me know down below what you plan on picking up or if you have some favorite products. So I'll quickly go over the details, but I will list everything down below. So it does start on April 1st till April 11th, and April 1st starts for Rouge members, and that is 20% off. On April 5th, VIB members can shop for 15% off, and then insiders can shop on April 7th for their 10% off. And then the code is SAVESPRING. But let's just get straight into the product recommendations. So I wanted this to be a really pared down, a really curated list, just because I don't want it to be an overwhelming list. These are kind of like my best of the best products at Sephora. So I am going to start off with foundation. Now, I only have one foundation to mention, and that is the Dior Airflash foundation. I just think the Dior Airflash is the best foundation that Sephora has to offer. This is definitely my favorite foundation, but I do kind of want to preface this that I actually don't love this foundation the most on its own. I feel like if you have normal to oily skin, you will really enjoy this foundation on its own. But my favorite way to actually use this foundation is to utilize it with other products. So I will either mix this with like a moisturizer or a primer. I really like to mix it with like the Victoria Beckham primer. That's a beautiful combination. But my favorite way to use this product is to actually mix it in with more kind of dewy foundations, more glowy foundations, just because I love how a glowier foundation looks on my skin. I have dry skin personally, but sometimes they're not the longest wearing foundations. So to make the foundation look even better on my skin, just because this sits over texture really beautifully, because it is such a thin texture, and so I can get some longevity out of more glowy foundations, I will mix in this foundation, and this does such a great job of mixing with any product that I pair it with. So this is great if you want to mix it into anything, because it just mixes so well with any product that I pair it with. Any primer, any concealer, any foundation, it just pairs beautifully. And because it is a really thin texture, again, it pairs with those other foundations that you mix it with really nicely as well. If you are using this on its own, it is a very beautiful foundation because of the thin texture. It sits on the skin really beautifully. But because I do have drier skin, I just like how this sits on my skin better if I mix it in with something a little more on the dewy side. Just because if I wear this on its own, it can be just slightly too drying on my skin. But this is beautiful over any texture on the skin. It just sits really beautifully. And this is also a great foundation. And this is a foundation I will use on its own in like the summer months when it's really hot and humid. If I want a foundation that can like last the extra mile and last the whole day when it is really hot out, I will use this foundation. So this would be great if you are going on like a hot trip vacation, because this will do really, really well in any humid climate. So I just really recommend this foundation. I know that it seems kind of high maintenance to just buy a foundation to mix it in with other things, but I just really love this foundation as a mixer, and I mix it into almost all of my glowy foundations, and it just makes those foundations perform even better. So I love to mix it in with my Clé de Peau The foundation, my Chanel Sublimage L'Essence Détente, the Surratt Dewdrop foundation. There's just so many foundations that this pairs well with, and if you want to make your glowy foundations look even better, last even longer, and then it just sits on texture even more beautifully because of this foundation, I highly recommend this. Now, next on my list is something that I love to utilize in different ways as well. So for me, I love multi-use products just because I have so much makeup. I like when I can actually use up a product. For me, that is really exciting when I can use up products. So next on the list is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter for a Superstar Youth Glow. I have two shades. So I have mine in the shade number 4 Medium and also in the shade 2 Light Clair. So I have two shades because the shade 4, I really, really love to use as a primer because it's basically my skin tone. It's just maybe a little bit lighter than my skin tone. And I love using this underneath my foundations just because it offers a very slight amount of coverage. So when I use this as a primer, I don't require as much foundation over top, which I really love because I like to wear as little foundation as I can get away with. So I love this as a primer. It does have a bit of radiance to it, so I don't apply it everywhere because it does have that little bit of radiance. It will accentuate texture in any areas you apply it or any texture that you have on the skin. So I like to apply it to like the high points of my cheekbones, a little bit down the nose, a little bit above my brows, and I actually like to apply it a little bit under the jawline as well. And then again, you can also use this as a highlighting product as well. And this is really beautiful to use over top of your makeup as a highlighter because it is the most natural looking highlighter that you will ever try. So I really enjoy this because it literally melts into your skin because it has kind of a skin tone color to it, if you can see. It's not like a standard highlight, which is usually more on like the champagne side or the gold side or the rose gold side. This actually has a skin tone color to it, which again makes it really nice for that multi-purpose effect. But it adds just this beautiful sheen and it just blends right into the skin. It basically requires no effort with blending. And this is what I love to use if I want that really like no makeup highlighter. This is such a fantastic product. It just gives your skin the most healthy, beautiful glow. It just gives you that beautiful lit from within, healthy glow that is really natural. If you want it to look like you are not even wearing a highlighter, this is the product to go for. It is stunning. This is a repurchase product for me. Obviously, I have 2 of these, so I really love it if I buy 2 of them. And I have gone through these. I think I've gone through like 2 of them before. So these are repurchase products. And they're just such a standout product from Charlotte Tilbury. So I had to mention that. I'm going to move on to the eyes next. And for eyeshadow, I am going to mention the Tom Ford. This is the Eye Color Quad Crème that was just released this year from Tom Ford. And the shade that I recommend the most is the Tiger Eye palette. So this is obviously a palette containing some warm neutral shades. It definitely leans more towards the warm side than super neutral or anything. It's definitely neutral leaning warm. But these shades in here are so beautiful. They are extremely creamy, like it is called. It is that cream to powder formula. I think it might actually be a powder to cream formula, but they are just so pigmented. They're incredibly easy to use. And I really love the effect that these give on your eyes. So they really have that ability to just kind of melt into your eyes. These would be fantastic for mature skin as well because they have that quality where they melt right into the skin. So after about like 5 minutes after you've applied them, you'll really notice how they have that melting capability and they just give you a really beautiful glow on your eyes. There is nothing too shimmery. There are no chunky glitters in here. This is just a sophisticated and refined shimmer that just looks so beautiful and elegant. And I love this color combination because it pairs well with anything. It's neutral enough that you can pair it with any lip color, any blush color. You can wear it with any color if you are sporting like a red dress or something or anything colorful. This formula is just a dream to work with. It is so easy to blend. It is easy to apply. If you are a beginner, I would highly recommend this formula as well. I just think this is a perfect palette. I'm so very pleased with this formula and it's something different from Tom Ford that I really enjoy. I have gotten some questions if I would pick between that or the wet to dry formula, and it's so hard to pick because the wet to dry formula is really different from this because this is a cream to powder. It has that creamy tendency to it, while this is a wet to dry formula. So you can use these powders wet or dry. And they do both have that kind of melting in effect, and they give a very sophisticated, beautiful glow. I would just say these ones, the wet to dry formula, have a bit more shimmer to them. They have a little bit more of that metallic effect than these ones. These ones are just so soft and beautiful and lovely on the eyes. Highly recommend this one. So I would definitely recommend picking up the Tom Ford Tiger Eye, but I also really love the wet to dry formula as well. I would just say whatever color combination you would enjoy the most, I would highly suggest that. And these are 2 different palettes in my collection that I think they are different enough that I enjoy having them both in my collection because they just perform a little bit different and the formula is different on them. But I really love this for the ease of application. It's gorgeous. And I actually think this might be my #1 eyeshadow palette in my entire collection. This has kind of topped the Tom Ford Suspicion palette. That was my #1. And now this is my #1. So really excited about that. And next I want to move on to bronzer. If you are looking for a new bronzer, I have to recommend the Guerlain Terracotta, the bronzing powder. This is the shade 03 Medium Warm. It is the most beautiful warm tone bronzer. And Guerlain bronzers are just a classic, and they're a classic for a reason. They're something that I feel like every luxury makeup collector should have in their collection because it is just such a beautiful formula. The formula is gorgeous, the texture is gorgeous, These are so flattering on the skin, and they come in a lot of different colors. So if you're cool toned, you can choose a more cool toned bronzer. And I really appreciate that they offer those different undertones and different color range, because with bronzer, it's not a one size fits all. We all have different undertones and we have different complexions. So I really enjoy that Guerlain does that. And this formula is just so beautiful. Now this is a matte bronzer, but it has an ever so soft sheen to it. So it applies on the skin so beautifully. It blends like a dream. It's not too pigmented, so you have a lot of control when you apply this product. You can go in with a really light amount, but you can build it up to get some beautiful intensity. And I just love the warmth that this has. This gives me the perfect amount of color to my skin. It gives me the perfect level of warmth to my skin. And I just love how it looks every time I wear it. And I will be picking up the new Guerlain bronzer that got released. So these are the Healthy Glow powders. This was the old formula, and you can see it's kind of in the sundial embossing. And I didn't love this just because it has a bit too much shimmer in it, and sometimes it would just look a little bit too pink on my skin some days. But I'm really excited about the new formula because it looks absolutely splendid. So I will be getting that one, and I will let you know my thoughts. But if you're just looking for a classic staple bronzer with a beautiful formula that looks so flattering on the skin, if you are looking for a more matte bronzer that just lays beautifully and you will always just be happy with your bronzer application, highly recommend the Guerlain Terracotta bronzers. These are a staple and I definitely recommend them. So gorgeous. And then for blush, I have a few recommendations. So first I want to talk about the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate Blushes. So the shade that I enjoy the most is the shade Sundrunk. This is definitely the most neutral that I noticed of the blushes that Tom Ford released. The other colors are quite bright and punchy, and I like something that's a little bit more neutral. So this shade right here is a bit more peachy, and for me it's quite neutral on my cheeks when I apply it. And then if I just want a little bit more of that punch, I can go in with this brighter shade. And the formula of this is beautiful. So it applies like a powder product would. You can just go in with your regular blush or your regular blush brush to apply this product. But the way it applies on the skin is so interesting. Like I said, you get the ease of application of applying it like a powder. But once you wait for about 10 minutes, it really melts into your skin and looks really creamy on the skin. So it gives you that appearance that you've applied a cream blush. It's such a unique formula and so lovely. And these are quite pigmented, so you have to be a little careful when you go in with it. But I really love the effect that this gives on my skin because, again, it gets that melding into my skin quality that really makes my skin look more like skin versus a powder sitting on top of my skin. And these blushes are more on the matte side as well. There doesn't appear to be a sheen in this formula, like no shimmer or anything. And I really like that for a blush, because I like to apply blush on like the fronts of my cheeks mostly, just to give me a little bit of that healthy color back to my skin. And with this blush formula, I can apply it to the front of my cheeks without it emphasizing texture or anything like that. I find sometimes with shimmery blushes, it just emphasizes too much texture in the front of my face. But this looks beautiful if you have textured skin. If you have more mature skin, I feel like this more creamy formula would work really well as well. And then another blush that I want to mention, if I do want just like a typical kind of powder blush formula that just lays on the skin beautifully and has a really nice longevity to it, this is the Laura Mercier Blush Color Infusion in the shade Ginger. So I really love this for its color. This is perfectly neutral. So this shade is basically my cheeks but better. It doesn't really appear as a super punchy blush color at all, but it just gives your cheeks something. So it gives you that kind of health, that beautiful glow back to your skin without it being too much. So if you're worried about like clown cheeks or anything like that, because a lot of formulas on the market now, they are super, super pigmented. This one, it's not super duper pigmented. It has a decent amount of pigment, but it looks really beautiful when you apply it onto the skin. It is very blendable, and I think the formula is really beautiful if you are a beginner or kind of worried about blushes being maybe a little bit too punchy on the skin. But I just am loving this color. This, again, it pairs well with anything. You could do a red lip, you could do like a purple lip, you could do purple eyes, you could do something really snazzy and smoky on the eyes. And this would pair beautifully every time because it is just the best neutral color out there. And I love that this is matte as well because, again, it's very flattering on the skin. It's not going to emphasize any texture or anything like that. And then quickly, I just want to mention this Dior blush. So you can see mine had an accident because apparently that happens to a lot of my products. I absolutely love this blush so much. I've already talked about it too much probably, but this is the Dior blush in the shade 459 Charnel. It's been sold out forever though, so I just wanted to quickly mention if it comes back into stock, I would grab it because this formula is beautiful, this color is beautiful, this pairs well again with anything. This has a very soft sheen to it, but it doesn't emphasize texture. And again, it has that capability where it just is really seamless on the skin. So recommend that if it comes back into stock. I did want to mention this Charlotte Tilbury Nude Gasm palette. Now I dropped mine, so it's a little bit shattered in these two shades. So I'll just put up a picture of it. But this formulation is beautiful. And I think now that things are kind of opening up again, this would be a great palette to purchase if you plan on traveling lots. The only thing I don't love about it is this blush shade, just because this is a very shimmery blush, so it does emphasize texture on the skin. It's just a little bit too glowy for me. But the other powders I absolutely adore in this. This highlighter is so beautiful. It's a big gelée. All these are big gelée powders. So the beautiful thing about these is when you apply them onto the skin, they really melt into the skin and they look like you've applied a cream product. They just meld into the skin beautifully. So if you're looking for a really natural highlighter, this is beautiful. It looks very skin-like. It is never over the top. Doesn't accentuate texture. And again, these bronzers, they're more on the matte side. They have an ever so soft sheen because they are that big gelée product. So again, they have that really nice skin-like appearance that just melts into the skin. This bronzer is a little bit deeper than what I'm used to, but I can just use a lighter hand and you get this beautiful applied bronzed effect. It is not too warm, but it is not too cool either. It's a nice neutral leaning warm tone bronzer that looks beautiful every time. So I would just highly recommend this palette, especially if you are someone that travels lots. I think this is beautiful. This is my favorite face palette that I own, and I just think I definitely get a lot of use out of it. And I am considering picking up a new one during the sale just because I do have travel plans later this year, and I think this would just be so easy to take with me. I would just really recommend this Charlotte Tilbury palette. The formula is impeccable. It is so beautiful. And then I do have a powder to mention, and this is a powder I don't talk a lot about on my channel, and I don't really know why because I obviously get a lot of use out of it. Now this is the Gucci Matte Natural Powder. I have mine in the shade 04. And I really love this powder, not to set my makeup. I actually do not like it to set my makeup because it does have an ever so soft sheen to it. But the powder is similar to the Guerlain Meteorites. It has a sheen to it. So this looks best if you buff it into your skin. I just take a little bit of product. So this isn't the brush I use, but for example, I'll take it on a brush, just like a little bit, and then I just sweep off the excess product. And then at the end of my makeup application, I can just buff this into the skin. And it just blends everything really beautifully into the skin. And as you buff this powder into your skin, you lose those shimmer particles. So you don't actually see shimmer particles sitting on your skin if you buff this into the skin. And it just gives you that beautiful skin-like appearance back. It really buffs all your products into your skin very beautifully so that it does, even though you're adding a powder, it actually ends up looking more natural when you use a buffing powder at the end of your makeup application. Really, really enjoy that powder. So again, for me, that powder is a finishing powder and not something that I actually use to set my makeup to kind of blur and finalize everything. I will use a different powder, but that's just a great finishing powder to end your makeup with. To finish off, I want to round out this product recommendations with lip products. Now, my favorite lip liner of all time is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Lip Cheat. You can see how pathetic and small this one is. I will definitely be purchasing another one during the Sephora VIB sale. This is just the best nude lip liner that I have ever tried. The formula is beautiful. It is not too drying, but it's also not too hydrating where it just slips and slides. It's not too sleek or anything like that. It's that perfect in between. And it is so incredibly long lasting. And my favorite thing about this product is the shade. The shade is just my perfect Your Lips But Better shade. It's that perfect kind of rosebud tone. And it just makes my lips look even better when I apply it. I just love this formula. It is a beautiful consistency. It never tugs at the lips, has that beautiful longevity to it, so I can really trust this lip liner. And I love all the lipsticks that I can pair this with. Highly recommend. This is just a classic. This is just my favorite lip liner formula, my favorite lip liner of all time. So definitely going to be repurchasing this myself. And I do recommend, if you haven't tried I don't even recommend this shade necessarily. Well, I do recommend this shade, but I just mean the formula is just a standout to me. This is just the best lip liner in my entire collection. So definitely recommend that. And then for lipstick, this was such a surprise to me. This is the Merit Signature Lip Lightweight Lipstick. My favorite shade is the shade Baby. Now, this lipstick is such a beautiful formula. The color actually reminds me a lot of the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Lip Cheat. Very similar. It's a little bit lighter though. But this formula is so beautiful because it is exactly as it states. It is so lightweight on the lips. It doesn't even feel like you are wearing a lipstick. And I really like my lipsticks to not feel heavy. I really like that kind of lived-in lip. So I don't even like to have that like harsh definition around my lips. I like that kind of more, like I said, lived-in look. And this gives me that. I don't even need to use a lip liner with this lipstick. It is such a lovely formula. You cannot feel it on the lid. It has a perfect combination of something that's like a satin and a glossy lipstick. It's right in between. It's like a perfect hybrid of that. Because sometimes, like I love the Chanel Rouge Cocoa Flashes, but sometimes they're just a little bit too glossy for what I want. And then I also really love like the Gucci satin lipsticks or the Charlotte Tilbury Kissing Lip formula. But sometimes it's just a little bit too drying. I want that perfect in between. And with this is that perfect in between. It has just enough gloss, but it's not too glossy. And it has just enough of that pigmentation, but it's not too pigmented where you can feel it on your lips and it feels heavy. This is just perfect. And I always take this with me if I am going out or anything like that because it is just so easy to touch up with. It is not a high maintenance lip color. I actually wore this for my sister's birthday and I just threw it in my bag and I could touch it up easily. This is such a beautiful formula, beautiful lipstick. Highly, highly recommend this. And last on my list, I have a Tom Ford gloss. This is the Gloss Luxe Brilliant in the shade number 21 in the buff. So this is just a beautiful kind of, can you even see that? It's basically a nude lip gloss, but I really, really love this formula. The formula of this is so beautiful. It is very lightweight in texture. It is very thin going on the lips, so it's not going to feel like that gloopy lip gloss that is just really annoying to have on your lips. This is just such a beautiful formula, and it gives you enough hydration, but it's not too hydrating where you get that kind of gloopy effect or anything like that. I just love this formula. It is so lovely. It does have a little bit of a sheen to it, but I like that because it almost makes your lips look a bit more plumping because it has a bit of shimmer in it, but the shimmer in it is very refined. You cannot feel the shimmer particles on your lips. And I just think this makes your lips look even better. It is just so beautiful. It gives you almost that like milky appearance. And I just think it's so pretty on the lips. And again, the formula is very comfortable. It's a very thin texture. It just gives you the perfect amount of sheen, the perfect amount of shine without it being over the top. And again, this is perfect to throw in your handbag. It looks luxe too. It's beautiful packaging. And I just really enjoyed this shade. I know that a nude lip gloss seems super boring and like you could find this within any other brand, but truly this is such a standout lip gloss in my collection because of the formula and how it feels on the lips. It just feels like another level. It is so beautiful. Highly recommend if you haven't checked out these glosses. They are amazing. But that is it for my Sephora VIB sale recommendations. I would love to know your top 5 recommendations down below as well. And do I need to pick up anything else at the sale? I would love to hear from you. I'm definitely going to be picking up, like I said, that Guerlain bronzer. And I want to get the Westman Atelier. They have those single eyeshadows now. They used to come in the 3, I don't know, they had like 3 of them. But only kind of one of the shades spoke to me. So I want to pick up that single. And then I'm not really sure what else I'm going to purchase. So again, I would love to hear from you if you have any recommendations for me. And that is it for this video. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it. And I will see you in my next video.